executives to provide more of the supply of N95 masks that they produce abroad and ship those to the United States. They face shifting explanations, I'm told, from 3M executives, everything from arguing that they had export restrictions that White House lawyers later found to be invalid, then ultimately saying that they had foreign business relationships that they didn't want to jeopardize. And so it all came to a head yesterday, Anderson, when Jared Kushner and Peter Navarro, two of the top White House officials handling this supply chain issues, and specifically this case involving 3M, they went to the president in the Oval Office and they said, look, it's time to pull the trigger here and use the Defense Production Act to essentially compel 3M to ship tens of millions of more N95 masks from abroad to the United States. Now, some of the details of how many masks are still being ironed out, but what this does highlight, Anderson, is the extent to which this administration is increasingly acting with a sense of urgency as you are seeing these shortages of crucial protective materials for medical workers on the front lines of this coronavirus epidemic, and the extent to which they're willing to use these more heavy-handed tools like the Defense Production Act authorities that allow them to do this in this case. Anderson?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been a lot of people expecting this for a long time. Julie, what is 3M saying about all this?
A pretty blunt response, actually, from 3M. They say that the company is going above and beyond, and their employees, to do everything they can to produce as many masks as they can. All the ramp up that we've seen in domestic production since January has gone to the US domestic market. Globally, they've also ramped up production. They've also negotiated with China to allow masks that they produce in China to come to the United States. They say they're negotiating and they're prioritizing FEMA and will continue to do that. Where they differ with the demands from President Trump and the White House on humanitarian issues is that they say they can't restrict or end supplies of these masks to Canada and to Latin America, because they say that will cost lives. The risk as well is that if they do that, there's retaliation from these countries too that say, fine, if you're going to hurt our people and these are critical supplies, we'll do the same. And the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, speaking in a presser today, kind of hinted that and was pretty blunt with President Trump too. I pulled out one of the lines he mentioned. I think of the thousands of nurses, for example, who cross the bridge in Windsor to work in the Detroit medical system each and every day. Anderson, what we're risking here, I think, is the Hunger Games for supplies that we're seeing at the state level turning into a Hunger Games at the nation state level. This is not how this act was meant to be used.
Julia Chatterley, appreciate it. Jeremy Diamond as well. Detroit bus driver dies just days after complaining about a passenger who was openly coughing on his bus. We'll talk to the head of the bus drivers union there, someone who has also tested positive. Up next.